The date is 2026-06-23. This is the Executive Lens. The biggest story today is the U.S. Iran diplomatic track, where Vice President JD Vance says high-level talks in Switzerland created a, quote, good foundation for a final deal, even as Tehran disputes the scope of any new commitments. The Associated Press reports that Vance said his marathon talks with senior Iranian officials produced, quote, encouraging progress, and that the two sides are now trying to turn that opening into a broader agreement to end the war. The New York Times says the U.S. has eased sanctions on Iranian oil, but that progress on nuclear issues remains unclear. In that reporting, Vance said Iran agreed to invite United Nations nuclear inspectors into the country, while the Iranian side said it had made, quote, no new commitments. That gap matters because inspections have been limited since President Trump withdrew from the Obama-era nuclear deal in 2018.
The diplomatic picture is being shaped by both markets and military risk. AP says oil prices fell on signs of progress in the talks, while stocks were flat early aside from gains in chip shares. The Hindu's live coverage says Iran and the United States have agreed to keep the Strait of Hormuz open and end fighting in Lebanon, though those claims remain tied to fast-moving conflict reporting. The practical question now is whether the talks can produce a verifiable inspection framework and a durable ceasefire arrangement, or whether the current pause is only temporary. On the domestic front, the Washington Post says tensions are running high as the Supreme Court prepares to rule on three key Trump priorities, with the stakes elevated even among the president's own appointees. The Post does not identify the rulings in the headline, but it says the court is about to weigh matters central to the administration's agenda. That makes today a consequential day not only for foreign policy, but for the legal limits on presidential power.
Here is the story most people missed. The New Hampshire National Guard says airmen from the 157th Air Refueling Wing have returned home after deploying to the Middle East in support of Operation Epic Fury. The Guard's statement confirms the unit's return, and the union leader also reported on the homecoming. It is a reminder that the regional conflict has already moved U.S. personnel and logistics into and out of theater, even as the headline diplomacy continues. What to watch today? First, whether the White House or State Department issues any formal readout on the Switzerland talks. Second, whether Iran or the United Nations confirms any inspection timetable. Third, whether the Supreme Court releases opinions on the Trump cases and how the justice's language is framed. That is the Executive Lens for 2026-06-23. Sources in the episode notes. Back tomorrow.